Hey guys, and welcome to my Week 9 Sunday NFL football prediction video. This week I'm going to do things a little bit differently. I'm not just going to go in the generic order of the games. I'm actually placing them based, I think, on how relevant the game is to potential playoff seeding, and as well as competition wise somewhat. Obviously, playoff seeding and competition wise kind of are the same thing. But with that, we'll start the video. Looking forward to this game, we have the New England Patriots going up against the Tennessee Titans. Obviously, not much to talk about in this game. Drake May looks like he might play. Tennessee Titans obviously aren't starting Will Levis. He's hurt, but he seems like he's been benched too. They obviously dealt D Hop, and they have a very unproven wide receiver core. Albeit they've had their defense has played pretty well. Their special teams was terrible though. And if there's anything that I know is that the Patriots, I mean, obviously they don't have Belichick anymore, but they always did really well on special teams. I don't really know who to go for in this game. These teams both are not very good. Obviously, their records, aren't the whole story, but they're not very good. They have glaring issues. But I'm gonna go with the Patriots. I'm not gonna say by much. I'll give them, a few points advantage. But otherwise, I think the Titans just, I don't know. Something tells me that they're not going to do too well or be able to beat the Patriots for whatever reason, but kind of a game that's like, who's looking forward to this? Even as a Patriots fan, you were looking forward to Drake May, and he's not playing. More than likely, he hasn't cleared concussion protocol, but yeah, I think the Patriots win because Brissett is a respectable backup. Moving on to our next game, maybe a little bit more excitement here, but not much. You've got two bottom dweller teams in the same division. Derek Carr is making his return this week. And obviously, last week they got a little bit healthier with Olave coming back, and he looked pretty good, even though they lost. But I think the Saints just are going to have too much firepower than Carolina. I will say, I mean, people, kind of already ruled that Bryce Young sucks, but he did make some good throws last week. I still don't trust the defense, though, and I don't trust them to be able to just score enough. So I'm going with the Saints in this game. Moving on, we have Dolphins Bills. And the reason I don't trust this game to really be too relevant is I don't trust the Dolphins defense. I mean, Tua comes back, he has a good game, but their defense blows it against Carolina, the Cardinals. And I just don't have much belief, I guess, in a team that doesn't have a very good defense. And it's not like the Cardinals are nobodies on offense, but they've got very limited star power. And the Bills, since getting Amari Cooper, are definitely the favorites for the division. The only other team I think that could contend with them are maybe the Jets. But overall, yeah, the Bills to me are the team that wins this, especially at home. So I'm going with the Bills to beat the Dolphins, who they've handled each time they've played them. And obviously, that was the last game that Tua had played before he got hurt. But moving on, we have Raiders Bengals. And the reason why I think this is a little bit more relevant is that, the Raiders, for whatever reason, don't look like they're ready to turn it in. They actually played a pretty close game against Kansas City, regardless of what people say. I think Minshew's not terrible. I think that they have, a more balanced offense. I mean, they don't have a lot of star power, obviously, since trading Devontae, but the Cincinnati defense to me is just way too shaky, and I just don't trust it. However, I think the Bengals have a lot more reason to win. I think that this is kind of a relevant competition's, viewpoint as well, because Max Crosby's more than likely going to be able to get after Burrow, which is going to not allow them to do much if he's constantly hounding Burrow all game, which we've, of course, seen a lot of. I've heard that Higgins is potentially out. I think, let me look at this. I think he's doubtful, or he's already been ruled out. He's doubtful for this game. I just don't see much optimism, as Jamar Chase is good, but he hasn't really produced this year. So looking at this game, I do think, the Bengals come away with it because they're at home and they really can't afford to, slip a game here with the division they're in, obviously with Pittsburgh and the Ravens. But overall, it's like this could be an ugly game. But I'm gonna take Cincinnati at home, where they are winless this year. Crazy enough. Chargers Browns. This definitely wouldn't have been one of the games that I would have as towards the middle of the pack relevancy, except for the fact that the Browns beat the Ravens last week, which is huge for them. And I mean, their offense didn't look completely inept even after trading Amari Cooper. The Chargers coming off a win last week. I think that they overall, are a team that, they beat the Raiders, they beat the Panthers in their last two games. And oh wait, sorry, oh my goodness, I'm totally losing it. They beat the Saints last week, and they handled them, but otherwise this looks like a team where Harbaugh's trusting Herbert a bit more, they threw it a bit more. But it's like, if they're able to have a balanced offense, like, more power to Herbert when he does have to throw, and to be able to keep him safe and protect him. But obviously the Chargers in this game, more consistency at quarterback, having had the same QB all year. I expect Jameis Winston to not look as great every week, and he's going up against a good defense. So I'm expecting the Chargers to go into Cleveland and upset the Browns, but I expect it to kind of be a close game because that defense is legit with the Browns, especially when their offense actually contributes a bit to keeping them off the field and they're not on the field the whole game. But yeah, I'm going to go for the Chargers. I feel like this game is a little bit more of a toss-up than people would think. But yeah, the Chargers, because of their coach, because of their QB being better than Winston. And overall, I think that they do have better weapons overall on offense, even though they're a little bit less proven than like Njoku on the Browns. Moving on, we have Commanders Giants. I actually think that the Giants have been playing better than people give them credit for. People want Daniel Jones, Vanilla Vic gone. But to me, he's been playing a lot better behind a line that isn't just letting him he's still getting the crap beat out of him, but he's still making plays, and he's not making crazy bad decisions that are just screwing the team or giving an SOL to the team. The Commanders obviously coming off a crazy ending last week against the Bears, a game they controlled all game. I do think the Bears defense is, definitely a little bit more talented than the Giants defense, even though I think the Giants defense is scrappy, young, and hungry, with Dexter Lawrence leading the way. I do think the Commanders win, though, just because they're, I wouldn't say better coached, but they have a little bit more talent, and they do have the better QB. Regardless of what I said about Daniel Jones, which, many people might think is nuts, but he has been playing better this year. I don't think you can say that Daniel Jones is the reason for, the entire reason for the Giants' struggles this year. But I'm going with the Commanders for this game in a divisional matchup. Now we have Cowboys-Falcons. I think this is relevant because, the Cowboys have been kind of a laughingstock. They're still not they're still not they're only one game below 500. And, the Falcons have been very inconsistent this year. I think that it's like Bijan looks great one game, their run game looks great one game, then the next they don't really have a run game. Then Kirk Cousins is off and on, even with all the talent that he has around him. So it's like the Falcons, this is kind of, I think, one of the trap games of this week where it's like, maybe Dallas, gets smoked out. They could definitely get smoked out, but maybe they start to figure it out too. Who knows? I really think that CD and, Dak need to get on the same page. This is kind of battle of the bad playoff QBs, with Kirk and Dak. And I mean, I think that showing that, they had some production against the Niners at the end of the last game shows that there's a little bit of life with the Cowboys. Maybe not a lot, but it's not like they're completely dead. But I am going with the Falcons this game. I just think that, they have too many weapons and the Cowboys are kind of banged up defensively. And they've been spotty against the run with Zimmer's defense. But yeah, I'm going with the Falcons, even though I think it's, a chance that the Cowboys kind of possibly try to reignite their season and keep hope alive. Moving on, we have Jaguars, Eagles. The Jaguars, once a team that was very good on the road, clearly being 0-4 on the road this year. They, really, really need a win. The Eagles have been kind of funny, where it's like last week, they didn't really throw for touchdowns. They had, the brotherly shove get them touchdowns. And their passing game has been just off to me with the Eagles, even though they've got great talent there. The Jaguars did look alive last week against the Packers, and I mean, maybe they can ride that momentum into this game, where it's like, I think that the Eagles have a good secondary, but it's been kind of off and on, in terms of I don't think that they're just as dominant as, you'd want them to be. So looking at this game, I'm not going to say Jaguars, even though I think that it was huge that they almost had a comeback and they really, had some good plays. I'm going to say the Eagles, but like I've said the last couple weeks, I think it's their game to lose. And I mean, last week they kind of dominated the win at the end, but they played the Bengals, who are just such an off and on team. And I think that, the Jaguars do have good pieces. They just haven't delivered. And I think that Peterson, going back to Philadelphia, this might have kind of that sort of game where he's eager to prove he still has it and eager to show Sirianni that, maybe he shouldn't have taken his job, after he was no longer the Eagles head coach. But moving on to the next game, we have Sunday Night Football. It is Colts Vikings. The Vikings, obviously being the second to last team that had been undefeated, and they lost their 2 games within a 5-day stretch on Thursday Night Football against the Rams, and then obviously against the Lions the Sunday prior, were their last 2 games. The Colts, everyone knows about Anthony Richardson, that he said he was tired, he tapped out for a play, and that's the reason for his benching. I kind of said that even though he completed only 10 passes, he throws a beautiful ball, and the fact that he threw Will Anderson to the ground when he potential sack and at least shook the sack type of thing. I think he could be really gifted, but maybe they're doing this as, like I said in my reactions, as a humbling experience. But Joe Flacco, to me, it could be a mistake in the sense that Flores likes to blitz and likes to apply a lot of pressure, and Flacco isn't mobile at all. Not saying Richardson could just escape every time, but he's got a lot better of a chance than Flacco. But I imagine that the Colts are going to kind of do this short chip and dunk kind of style gameplay that they're known for, with the occasional bomb to like Alec Pierce or Pittman and, several other wide receivers that have that downfield talent. For this game, I think, for the Vikings, obviously you're still 5-2. You did lose Darisaw for the season. You're still a fairly healthy team, even though Hawkinson isn't back. But I'm going to be bold, and I'm actually going to say that I think the Colts win this game. I think that schematically they can outduel the Vikings. And the Vikings have just been kind of stuttering on offense, where, Darnold looked like he was a potential MVP. He's had some doldrums in these games where it's like, you think with Jets and Addison, you think he'd have more than enough firepower, to be able to like do well every game. And then not to mention Aaron Jones, who's a solid running back and is, still running it really hard. But yeah, I'm going to pick what is the upset, and I'm going to pick the Colts to win this game. But moving on, we have a crazy game, I think, in Rams and the Seahawks. The Rams, crazy enough, obviously the only team in that division that is, not 500. Every team's 4-4 besides them. They've obviously only played 7 games. And, the Niners have a bye week this week. Or do they? Skew what I just said. But regardless of whether or not every other team is 4-4, and I know that the Cardinals play this week. But looking at this, I'm going to take the Rams. I think that Seattle's defense is banged up. They haven't done well against the run, which Kyren Williams is a baller and a very good runner. And then you got healthier and you did a surprising victory against the Vikings, which, don't get me wrong, you might have had some calls go your way. The face mask thing, isn't their fault, obviously. But I think with further time and recovery from Kupp and Puka, even though Cooper wasn't listed on the injury report, I feel like some of those injuries, they linger a little bit. They just don't put them on the injury report. But I would say that with those guys being back for a second week with a little bit longer than a week to like rest and then prepare, I would say the Rams are going to win this game. Obviously, it's a divisional matchup. The Seahawks, if they lose, are last in the division. but albeit it's still a very, very tight division, obviously. Like, I don't think I've ever seen a division with this many teams lingering around at or around 500. But I'm going to take the Rams. I think that, let me look and see if DK is playing. I think that if DK is playing, I think it's a little bit, scrappier, but he didn't play last week. He is out, okay. And so is Noah Fant, which is wild to me. I think that JSN and Tyler Lockett are good, and then Kenneth Walker, good. It's a good thing he's still healthy, and I think they should use Charbonnet a little bit more. But to me, just looking at the defense of the Seahawks, who hasn't played the run well, I just don't trust it against Kyren Williams. And then it's like Stafford's just too good at controlling, the game through the air, and he's not going to throw risky balls, and Cooper and Puka are going to get open. So I'm taking the Rams this game because I think that Seattle's just kind of underperformed. And I mean, when they had DK, he was essentially getting kind of a long throw touchdown or close to it like every single game, and now he's out, which is unfortunate because he's a talented and very good player, which is a huge blow to their offense. So unless Seattle, to me, can get the run going, I don't see them winning this game, which they also haven't been able to really do this year. So I'm going with the Rams over the Seahawks in Seattle. Bears, Cardinals. I think it's crazy to say that the Bears obviously last in the North with their loss last week, but still obviously above 500. And then going up against the Cardinals, who took the division lead last week with their crazy comeback win from losing to the Dolphins. Arizona, to me, is just very scrappy. They play hard. They don't have the most talent, but they play scrappy. And to me, you've got a guy like Kyler Murray. The Bears obviously have a pretty good defense, even if you're looking at, that they gave up that Hail Mary off of a miscue. Essentially, they still didn't give up that many points. And obviously one of the touchdowns was off a crazy play that never should have happened. But obviously made me happy as a Packers fan. But to me, Caleb Williams, he played terrible last week. It was, after everyone was saying he got better every week, there's no denying that he digressed after the bye. And it's not like they were playing crazy good defense on the Commanders. I think it was good. I think they were stopping the run good, and they were forcing Caleb into situations that he just couldn't execute on. But it's not like it's not like Washington. I mean, they have a good, well-coached defense, but it's not like they have the craziest defense in the league. And the Bears aren't lacking of weapons. But looking at the Cardinals, obviously Kyler isn't as good as Jaden. He's not hurt, though, and he's always seemed to have that clutch aspect about it. Obviously, the Bears here they've lost every game on the road this year. Maybe this is the game that they break it. And I am actually going to go with the Bears. I just think that Cardinals don't have enough firepower. I do think that the Bears, they know that they kind of underperformed after the bye, and now they're going to really lock in and know that they need this game because the tough bulk of the schedule is coming up with the division opponents, and you don't want to have to be thinking you have to win like 5 out of 6 divisional games to make the playoffs. Like, that just seems unplausible in this tough division. But yeah, I'm going with the Bears. I think this is their first road win, and they prove to be too much for a Cardinals team that doesn't have a ton of talent. Moving on, we have Broncos-Ravens. I think this is a huge game. It's obviously kind of, to me, like a measuring stick for Bo Nix. And I think that he's played well. I think he's done really well. I think he's got that dog in him. I think he has everything you want with that a QB you want in a QB where, he butts heads with the coach on things that he thinks they should be doing. And, they have a good defense. Excuse me. On the Broncos. And I think that last week the Ravens obviously went up against a Browns team that's a divisional rival, but was like, yeah, we're not going to let you run, Lamar, and we're going to play you very tough defensively. I don't think the Broncos have the firepower of the Browns to really do the same thing. And I think the Ravens definitely win this game because last week Lamar was making some sketchy throws. I know he didn't throw a pick last week, at least not more than one pick. I'm pretty sure he had 0. But he threw a lot of risque balls last week, which is just uncharacteristic. And I expect him to kind of correct that and really return to the Lamar that was dominating. So I'm going with the Ravens over the Broncos in Baltimore. Now, the biggest game, I think, of the week, one that everyone can agree that is going to be huge and, potentially, seeding. It might be determined by this game. Obviously, there's a good amount of games left in the season. But moving on, we have Lions going to Lambeau to play the mother-loving Green Bay Packers. So my Packers... Obviously, I'm pretty sure Love is playing. He's practiced the last 2 games or 2 days. He has the groin injury, which honestly last week, up until he actually went out, he was still slinging the ball. Josh Jacobs is with a minor injury, I know, this game. Josh Myers is likely not playing, but I think that they move Elgton Jenkins to center, Sean Ryan to left guard, and then pull in Jordan Morgan, our first-round pick, to right guard. Because that's what they did when Myers went out the last time. The other thing, too, to me, is that Evan Williams, the starting strong safety, who is a rookie and has been playing very, very well, is out for this game with a hamstring injury. So you're more than likely going to see Javon Bullard kind of resume at strong safety. They don't really have anybody else that can come in and play safety at a level that is needed, especially when you have a team that's explosive like the Lions. Obviously, the Lions don't have Jameson Williams. He's serving the 2nd game suspension from his 2-game suspension for PEDs, which I think it helps. I still think this offense and their offensive coordinator are very juiced. They know the offense knows each other at a level that makes them elite. It isn't like there's one guy on the team that is going to beat you. It is a household unit on Detroit. And the Packers know that. They know that if you ignore St. Brown, he can take over and really gouge from the slot. They know that if they don't guard against Sam Laporta, the tight end, he can ball. And there's also Goff, who's playing incredibly good. And you could say is in the running for MVP. You can definitely say that this year. Obviously, with Love being kind of hurt, I don't think this is as serious, obviously, as an injury as when he had the sprain. And I just wonder about his ability to protect himself. And obviously, it's kind of a toss-up. But thinking about this game, one thing that I do think is really going to be apparent is that Aiden Hutchinson isn't playing. And I know that the Lions have played well since losing him. They've really stepped it up. But Aiden Hutchinson, since he's been drafted, was the game wrecker for the Packers. He, in my opinion, single-handedly kept the Packers out of the playoffs for Rodgers last year on the Packers. And he's been disruptive ever since. And he just seems to get that I'm going to beat you guys single-handedly mentality, like TJ Watt. And that's going to be his, MO, is that he's going to be like, I'm going to prove that you're going to have to be afraid of me for a long time. And with that gone, I mean, obviously this is the Lions-Packers rivalry, but Hutchinson just embodied what it meant to be a Lion. So I really think that this is the game that they're really going to miss him. I do think this is going to be a really tight game. I think that last week, obviously with the Lions dominating, but Goff not even throwing for 100 yards, I think that they obviously had crazy special teams. And while I can say that the Packers have had shaky special teams this year, it is nowhere near as bad as how bad the Titans was. So looking at this game, I am actually going to say that I think my Packers win. I think that the Lions coming into this game, they're given a lot, a 3-point advantage. And I think that my Packers are really ready to show a defense that is ready to kind of go mark to mark with this team. And I think they're ready to do that. And I think that Hafley is, going to really prepare, because this is definitely the biggest game the Packers have played this season. Same with the Lions. The Lions this year have played some teams. They've plenty of teams this year. But by far, and the reason why I put this as the last game to talk about, it seems like near perfect timing for these teams to meet. Obviously, if you had a few less injuries and, in the Lions case, obviously a huge injury to Hutch and Jameson Williams, not suspended, would up the ante a little bit more, but it is still going to be an NFC showdown to remember, I'm assuming. And I think that, I actually do think that my Packers pull this game out, and I think that they really want to solidify themselves as the team in the North again, potentially to be the team to beat. And if they can beat the Lions, they can do that. So I'm picking my Packers to beat the Lions at Lambeau Field. But otherwise, if you guys have any comments, any opinions, or any thoughts or questions, please leave those in the comment section. Leave a like if you liked the video. And if you want to see more NFL content like this, then click that subscribe button. But as always, I am the host of Castcast, Cassidy. And as always, go Pack Go.